Let's take a few minutes and walk with me around Fairfield's iconic town square. If you know where to look, the square provides a unique glimpse into our town's history. Actually, our town square first started out more like an oval, but no matter what shape it's in, it's always been the first stop for visitors and guests. Imagine coming into our town on your horse around the time of the Civil War. Dirt streets, wooden sidewalks, get some water for your horse and hitch him to a post in the center of town. You need a place to stay? You can choose from several different hotels right here on the square. Early on, Fairfield had a reputation for developing and adopting new creative ideas. In 1882, Fairfield built the first municipal electric plant in the nation, and in the center of the square, a huge tower that lit the Fairfield streets for a radius of 5 city blocks. People would come from all over Iowa just to see the fully lit town of Fairfield at night. They say the footings of that 170-foot tower are still there today, hidden beneath the gazebo right in the middle of the square. Although we may not know about the first person ever born in these parts, the first settler born here was William Henry Coop in a covered wagon near Lockridge, his birth attended by 2 neighbor women and a Native American midwife. Every side of the square has stories to tell. Take the east side. In April 1883, fire destroyed the entire south half of the east side of the square. It's hard to imagine what a huge jolt that was for our small town. But by October of that year, longtime Fairfield grocer James F. Crawford rebuilt his store at 61 South Court. The following year, Crawford finished the matching 2-story brick building at the rear of his lot. It took till 1897 for everyone to rebuild, but the east side of the square eventually did come back. South of the Crawford building, across Burlington, where the First National Bank is today, stood the elegant Hotel Leggett, which served our community for almost 100 years. James Yancey had his barber shop there, located just west of the Leggett. Looking south down Court Street, there's the Wilson Block. James F. Wilson was a U.S. Congressman, 2-term U.S. Senator, and a key proponent of federally protected civil rights. Wilson secured the funds from his friend industrialist Andrew Carnegie and built the first Carnegie Library west of the Mississippi, right here in Fairfield in 1895. That building still stands today and is now home to the Carnegie Historical Museum. The Lodge for the Independent Order of Oddfellows, a Mason-like men's club for workers of odd or different jobs, was started here in 1846 by Robert Fulton, who walked all the way to Burlington, Iowa and back, 120 miles, in order to receive the charter for Fairfield and become the first of 5 generations of Fultons initiated into the secret society. The northwest corner of the square hides quite a bit of history within its buildings. On the corner, today's Cafe Paradiso occupies 2 storefronts which date back to 1871, when J.E. Roth built his store at 59 East Broadway. A few years later, Roth and others installed striped wooden floors using alternating panes of local walnut and ash. So the next time you place your order at Cafe Paradiso, look down and take in some local history. Looking up at the buildings around the square, you can sometimes see the names of the original owners. Just west of Broadway, you'll notice the McElhaney building. Robert McElhaney purchased that lot for $30 and completed that building in 1851. Most Fairfielders recognize that name when they pass the McElhaney House, located on North Court Street near Howard Park. Just down the block on North Court is the United Methodist Church, built in 1923. What you may not know is that previous to this one, another church stood proudly in that same spot for 60 years before it burned down in a fire. Some of the locals called it Wing's Folly because Reverend Henry Wing had the church built for $10,000, and that was a lot of money at that time. It was magnificent, but well worth it, don't you think? Across the street from Wing's Folly, the landmark Jefferson County Courthouse was built in 1893, just 1 block north of the square. In 1949, a violent windstorm destroyed the steeple, and it stayed that way for over a half-century. That's when local businessman Lee Gobble, at the age of 90, made good on a promise to his father to return the steeple to its glory days. With a little help from his friends and support from throughout the community, Lee mobilized the resources for the steeple's restoration. Coming back onto the square, we enter what some used to call Drugstore Corner, once one of the busiest parts of the square. This corner drugstore was run by a succession of owners, first by Dr. Clark, who founded our hospital, and then by Shriners, Johnson Peasley, and then Browns. Some people don't realize that the ornament at the top of that building is actually a mortar and pestle that's been there for over 100 years, telling people that if you needed to go to the drugstore, well, this was the place to go. Next to Clark's was J.A. Spielman's hardware store and tinsmith shop. The sign which once stood on the top of the Spielman building was recently discovered and restored. For a while, it was proudly displayed in the picture window of today's Icon Art Gallery, before being moved to its permanent home at the Carnegie Museum. Our hometown history is worth knowing because it tells us how we got here. It reconnects us to the people, places, and events that shaped our small, vibrant Midwestern community. These stories, big and small, serious and funny, have woven the tapestry of our hometown and encourage us to be our best, strong, independent people working together for the greater good.